Did you know negative 40 degrees Celsius is the exact same temperature as negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit? I live in Alaska. That sucks no matter how way you slice it. Let's get into it. All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Podcast. I'm Prescott Kelly. Today is Sunday, January 5th. Glad to have you back with us. I have the one, the only, your worst nightmare, Mack Brooks of the Mack Truck Podcast. Girl, how are you doing? It's so glad to have you back on my timeline again.
Peace, Scott. What's good? Listen, man, I'm just glad to be alive and kicking, okay? I'm just glad to be here and be back in the space that we all know and love.
It's been a weird over the past 2 months for both you and I. It has been really less than ideal is the way that I would put it.
Less than ideal is absolutely the way to go.
So with you, I'm privy to a little bit of your journey, and I know how much you want to actually divulge to people, but you're in Iowa. You're getting back into the podcast space. You and I both took a little bit of time off, but you're back. What are you up to now? Where are you working? What is your journey? What is going on right now with Mack Brooks?
So, first of all, happy 2025, and anybody who's watching and listening, and that'll be listening and watching later. As far as over here in the Mack Truck town, here in cold Des Moines, Iowa, where it's also like -2, and I'm sick of it already.
You don't get to say negative, and I live in Alaska. You don't
listen. It is literally -2. I'm just throwing that out there. But obviously, I don't have it as bad as you do, and I hate that for you. So, everything that's been happening in my world over here has been a little bit of heartbreak, a little bit of chaos, a little bit of really life kicking me in the ass, and me enjoying the fact that it's kicked me in the ass because it's also helped remold myself and reestablish who I want to be as a person and a content creator, show hostess. So with that being said, over the winter break and over the hiatus that I took, I actually ended up getting a job for Cumulus Media here in Des Moines, which is a radio station. It was a national radio station. They house like the Rich Eisen show and the Jim Rome show, and then Maggie and Perloff in the morning.
They do both of those?
Yes, they do. In fact, they do Maggie and Perloff. They do Rider Than You with Bill Ryder, Jim Rome, and the Rich Eisen show. So I will be working as the promotions assistant here in Des Moines for the Des Moines sector of Cumulus Media. And on top of that, I will start to have my show produced and edited by the lovely folks at Cumulus Media, and it will be put on the Cumulus Media Podcast Network, officially starting on January 13th. So if you're already following the Mack Truck Podcast page, get ready for a brand update, because after January 13th, once our first official show comes out, we will no longer be the Mack Truck Podcast. We will be officially the Mack Truck Show, starring yours truly, and all the sports content, really about sports, life, and everything in between.
So you change. All right. So I have so many questions, but also I've never been more jealous in my entire life, but also more proud. Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I've never said that I've hated somebody with so much joy in my life that I'm going to say right now. That's the greatest thing. That's so awesome for you.
So, well, and just a little bit of like backstory as far as like how I kind of came about this. As you guys know, my best friend and really the guy who I pretty much go to for really anything that I need to be level-headed about outside of you is Evan Bradfield, okay? Mr. Thunderman himself of the Recognized Game podcast, which is actually being recorded shortly, now that I think about it. But him and I were talking a couple months ago, just before everything happened. I kept hearing a commercial on the Cumulus station here in Des Moines about getting your podcast on their podcast network and, playing for it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a stab in the dark. Sent the email, got an email back within 3.5 hours, had a meeting set up for that next week, went into the studio, had the interview with the station manager and my point of contact. And not only did I get one of the spots for the content and my now show, I also got offered the position of being the promotions assistant for the Des Moines sector of Cumulus Media. All in one day. I went there to try to get professional airtime and ended up with a job. And I'm not complaining at all, because starting the podcast and starting the show itself was the sole reason for me. Like, I want to be in a professional space when it comes to sports media. My dad also had a radio show when he was alive. So I kind of have it built in my blood. And not a lot of people know that, but my dad had a jazz show when we were growing up, when me and my siblings and everything were growing up. So I'm the one who took over most of the innateness as far as sports knowledge, being an athlete, and then the content side of it.
That means a lot, because I've always our stories and the way that the path that we took to getting here was a lot different, because I remember I always wanted to have this opportunity. I had a buddy of mine who worked at a radio station, was only music, and he goes, "Hey, we're trying to branch out." He brought me into it because of the Chop and P. Scott page, and he's like, "Why don't you come in and do this?" He got fired because of some off-field extracurricular activities, if you will. And I'd only been there for 2 weeks. I'm like, well, they're not gonna keep me back. And I also didn't even try. But we, like, at some point in time, like, you really do have to just kind of pursue what you think is going to be best for you. Like, for me, I'm still in my career space that I am, but this is I still stay here. This is what my dream is. And my boy Roy, real quick, my boy Roy Taylor, I got to give him some love. He's in Buffalo. He's a real New York Buffalo Bills dude. And he's saying, what's up to you, Mack Truck? Saying hey to me, saying hey to you. He's one of the realest Bills fan I know. And, like, I know I got everything behind me, but I try to be the nerd. I'm trying to be the self-deprecating Bills fan, It's kind of what it is. But
I love it. Here's a fun fact. And I'm not gonna say only because obviously I'm gonna let you guys in right now, but, like, the entirety of my father's side of the family is all from Buffalo, New York. Every single last one of them.
There's no way.
I promise you. Listen,
what you're doing is you're pandering to me, the Bills fan, and I don't appreciate that.
I promise you. Listen, there's a reason I live in Iowa and I'm a Yankees fan. I didn't have a choice growing up. I was a Yankees fan for a reason.
I'm a Bills fan. Sometimes we just have these things. These things are made to us.
Yeah, well, and it's crazy because, like, the array of sports teams that I have is absolutely outrageous, and I have gotten so much crap for it. But I'm just like, there's a difference between the teams that I like. I actually know them. Okay, I actually am a fan of them and have been a fan of them since I was little. The team that you're a fan of, you like because of one player and one player only from, like, the 2010s. Like, I've been a Yankees fan since.
No, the 1989s, madam.
No, I'm talking, like, just other people, not you specifically. Just you in general. No.
We might have to fight in the Des Moines.
No. Like I said, as far as just being able to come back into the space that I love and, like, the dream that I'm trying to pursue, it means a lot. And, like I said, I wouldn't have, even anything that I have now without you, Mario Escalera, Big Mo. That's my guy. And obviously my best friend, Evan Thunder Bradfield, and, all the people, all the loved ones in my life, regardless of, things that have happened. I'm just glad to be back in the space and the comfortability of what I know. But, sometimes when life kicks you in the ass, you have to re-establish who the fuck you are. And that's what I've done. And doing that also means, I know, that's what I do.
Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one.
But it's what I do. I can't help it.
I'm the Spider-Man of podcasting. Everybody gets one.
That's fair. But all in all, you really have to really sit down and peel back and realize what you want, what you don't have, what you lost, how you want to try to get it back in one way, shape, or form. And that's what this hiatus for me personally has done. I mean, I've seen myself at the lowest of lows lately, and now I'm coming back. There's a reason the start to your show literally says Return of the Mack, because that's me. And I don't back down for anybody. So I suggest you get out of my way if you're not on the truck train. Sorry.
Honestly, I feel bad because every single episode I've shout out Evan Bradfield and his company, and I didn't. Do you mind if I take 30 seconds to give a plug for Evan Bradfield?
Brought to you by No, let's go.
Customs. In My Bag is a brand that collaborates with talented artists from across the country to bring some unique and exclusive concepts to life at a reasonable price. For $15 off your first purchase, visit whatnot.com/invite/inmy_bag2023. That's whatnot.com/invite/inmy_bag2023 for $15 off your first purchase. And make sure to check them out on Instagram as well at inmy_bag2023. Also, my bad. My touchpad is really, really sensitive. So I had my finger hovering over it and it did it instantly. I was like, I'm going to get crucified for this.
No, it's all good. I see E-Man in the comments. I got the comments rolling over here.
There. And him and his brother, they got a good pod, man. The brother podcast is a real good show.
Listen, I've been what they call an A1 since day one. I've been in their corner since it was the 3-man weave. It went from the 3-man weave to brother, and it's still a great product. And now they're making another big transition from brother to brother to Recognize Game. And frankly, I love it. I love anything my best friend and his brother do, but just the way they present things in sports and knowledge across the board is different, just like us, and it's good content. So if you're not on that channel, you better hop on it.
Look, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Period.
Right. Also, we haven't talked one lick of sports, and I know that once this gets to the actual podcast audio listen, they'll be like, why the hell are we even still here? We got to get a little bit to the content while also stay. This is why I'm so bad at producing my own show, man. I got to executive produce. I got to content. This is the whole thing as well. But I want to get your content creation on one thing. Gerard Mayo got fired. Do you agree or not? I called this during the game, which is wild. I called it during the game. I saw his reaction, and I'm like, yo, that mother is getting fired. His key card won't work on Monday. And I was laughed at. And he got fired 42 minutes after the final whistle blew. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on it?
You know what? To say that I saw this coming would really be a lie, because I did not actually see this coming. However, normally when
is the greatest that's the greatest spin ever. Is however, when teams make moves and quick moves like that, to fill a position to start the season or move on to their next coming season, it's essentially you're still technically in an interim position. You're interviewing to keep the job long term. Unfortunately for Gerard Mayo, and he's got great talent in Drake May. Like, don't get us wrong, but you also got rid of one of your best defenders in Matthew Judon, and you didn't fare so well. I mean, and I think Gerard Mayo is going to be able to grab another spot somewhere else. I just don't think it's going to be a head coaching position. But now poses the question: who do you bring in with Robert Kraft and a new young quarterback in Drake Mayo, or Drake May replacing Gerard Mayo rather? Drake Mayo is correct. He's Drake Mayonnaise. You're fine.
Yeah, is he okay? Drake Mayo and Gerard May, I suppose, if we're going to do it that way. And frankly, I don't see how you don't look at Mike Vrabel, personally.
Well, I mentioned this I mentioned this to a buddy of mine, well, Anthony McBride, and I was like, look, there's layers to this, and I might be reading too much into this, but what I've seen through the layers of the New England way, right, the Patriot way, is when Tom Brady retired, who'd they get to be his replacement immediately? Cam Newton. Then who they draft? Mac Jones.
Back to back, almost.
Then right, but then they let nobody. They don't want to hire anybody, and they let Gerard Mayo be the head coach. But they immediately fire him after one season. To me, this seems like an underlying. And look, I might be reaching at straws here, and I'm not trying to be that dude, but given the New England way, given the Boston, Massachusetts way, the buffer was get the dude to be the dude to replace the dude. And Mike Vrabel, to me, seems like he might. I don't know if he's going to be the next head coach, but they've never had a black head coach ever. And this seems like it was the perfect way of like, hey, we got a black quarterback, we got a black head coach. What do you want us to do now? It just seems like they're perpetually just doing in come on, man, this is what they want us to do. Is disingenuous. What do you have going in the background? Is that Christmas music?
I honestly have no idea. It's whatever I was listening to prior to hopping on here. I'm not even gonna lie. Oh, it's Tori Kelly, who I actually happen to love. Well, we're gonna get into that later on the back end as far as things that we have coming up. But back to sports. Listen, this is gonna make me sound like a giant a-hole, and you know me and my word diction.
Do what you gotta do.
Unfortunately, if you know the background of the New England area of sports, namely the Boston Red Sox and a little bit of the Patriots, it's not quite minority friendly in terms of starting positions and head coaches. And I almost feel like Robert Kraft may have pulled a status quo move.
That is my entire point. Exactly.
And it's crappy. It happens, but it's crappy. I'm not saying it's right by any means, but I think in order to build a program the way you want it, you have to give somebody more than a season.
Do you also think that's why they did it though? Because like for me, like I personally, I saw them do this. Again, this is the Playbook podcast. I've seen the playbook when it comes to that area. And their Celtics fans will say, well, we have Joe Mazzulla. Cool, nice story. But I mean, yeah, you know as well as I do, that demographic doesn't do well with a certain demographic. So, and I hate doing this as a white guy, but I feel like I feel like it's my, like I have to at least be honest about it, right?
I mean, with honesty comes truth, and with truth comes things that are brought to the light, you know, and awkwardness. It's a very uncomfortable topic either way you spin it to try to talk about it. Like, I'm just keep it a spade, you know. But you have to have these conversations to get points across and for people to really understand whether we're talking on one extreme side of this, as far as, you know, Gerard Mayo being a black descendant person, head coach, former athlete for the team, that type of thing, or Cam Newton, who honestly, in my eyes at that point, was kind of the spearhead to this entirety of Robert Kraft and the New England Patriot way, or New England sports market way of ingratiating themselves into the world of inclusion.
Well, the whole reason why I have issues with it is mostly because we didn't talk about this a whole lot off stage, but it was something where I've dealt with enough people who have lied to me in my own face, where I'm like, you are basically doing whatever you say is just to save your own face in public view, but it's not really what you mean. So when the Patriots signed Cam Newton, when they got Gerard Mayo, it's like, this is not what you guys usually do. It's a buffer to me, it seemed like it was a buffer. It is disingenuous to what you actually want to accomplish as a football team. And also, man, there are too many people out there who haven't gotten jobs. We're going off a little bit off script right now, but I want to ask you real quick before we go on to, before you think that Gerard Mayo should have been fired or not, was Eric Bieniemy real quick. We're going off the cuff because everybody was saying he should be a head coach. And I was saying, we have no idea because he's been a coordinator for one of the greatest offensive minds ever with one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. And then he goes to UCLA and then he's a head coach and it's like, oh, he's not good anymore. Is he not good anymore? Or did he interview bad? What's the deal? And for me, it's just, we need to stop doing everything based on he didn't interview well. Well, were you in the interview room? You don't know, right? Like, I feel like there's got to be a certain level of maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. It's like, I think Eric Bieniemy could have been a good head coach depending on where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do. But, and I'm getting a little bit off topic right here because I ramble and that's kind of what I do and that's on me. But I don't know. I just feel like Gerard Mayo was set up for failure from the get-go, mostly because they wanted the buffer like this. The same thing to do with Cam Newton. Am I off topic or not? And I'm sorry for rambling as much as I did.
First of all, don't apologize for explaining your viewpoint and explaining your thoughts, because the more you explain it, the more people will understand where you're coming from. With that being said, I tend to highly agree with you in terms of it being a buffer. I think it was crap, frankly. I mean, we can take this to the other side of the United States, actually a little bit closer to you in Vegas. Okay,
you gotta go way further
way
to get
up
to
top,
Alaska, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's closer to you than it is to me. Point of the matter is that you have Antonio Pierce. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm in Iowa. I'm in the dead smack of the United States. Okay, you're somewhere on another planet. It's fine.
You're somewhere on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, I know you're in the United States, but don't ask me where Alaska is on the map. I can barely find Iowa, and it's in the middle. Okay, hell.
Okay, so if you're watching here, it's usually right over here next to Hawaii.
Oh, you're way. Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, maybe it is a little close to me.
No, it's down. It's down because that's how they perceive it on the map. Is Alaska and Hawaii on the exact same map, and they're like 2 inches away from each other.
Lord have mercy. That's crazy. But I think in terms of Eric Bieniemy, I feel like you're also correct in that aspect as far as maybe he just didn't want to. Like, there literally is always that factor. He could have been offered. Right. He could have been offered so many different positions somewhere that, obviously we're not privy to because we're in a space, but we're not in that type of space to where we're going to have the ins and outs of everything. And at this point, with Eric Bieniemy having moved and UCLA having moved into the Big Ten in terms of just college sports and the current outlook of it, I don't really see him going anywhere. And I mean, obviously, money talks clearly, but sure. I feel like if he wanted to leave, he would have left already, or tried to pursue something else outside of a coordinator spot, and now essentially still a coordinator spot, but in a little bit better position.
Well, because the whole thing was like he apparently applied for different coordinator positions, and I guess it was Washington multiple times, and they're like, well, he didn't interview well. You were in the interview room. Like, don't do that. And that's kind of the whole thing for me is that which one is it? Were you great because you had a great system and great head coach and a great quarterback, or was it maybe you elevated? We don't really know because we're not really in those environments to be able to know definitively which one is correct or not. But the fact that when it comes to Gerard, though, and we'll move on to the next topic in a moment, is Gerard was somebody who, do I think that he was supposed to get fired based on talent? I would say no. But the way that he handles, and I'm not a big coach person because you can get whatever kind of content you want to from ESPN, NFL Network. Like you can get all those things wherever you want to get to, right? So I'm trying to give you more of the funny aspect than anything else. But does he deserve to be fired based on roster? No. But has he handled the off script and like the actual platform stuff, the post conference stuff? Well, no. And is he an easy target to get fired because you don't handle it correctly? Absolutely. And that's why, to me, it happened. Do I agree with it? No. But you could see, and that's exactly what I said on my page earlier. I saw his demeanor in the first quarter. I said, this man's done. And he knows it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing for me, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing. So I'm going to use both examples in terms of Antonio Pierce and Jerod Mayo. Both of them are, well, Antonio Pierce now is still the head coach for the team that he played for and got most of his success for. Jerod Mayo, same thing, had a lot of success, played for the team, and unfortunately for him, I feel like that was one of the main reasons why the Kraft ownership gave him that chance to lead the team that he came from, grew up with, whatever you want to call it, to see, like, do you still have that same fire in your blood as you did when you had pads on and you were hitting people? It would be, the equivalent would be like AJ Hawk putting on shoulder pads and playing for the Green Bay Packers again, or being the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers again. Like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but not all former players make great coaches. And unfortunately, I feel like Jerod Mayo just never really had the opportunity to bloom into what I feel like he could have been in terms of taking over that head coaching position for the New England Patriots. And unfortunately, the same thing could be said for Antonio Pierce, because he took over that head coach, he took over the interim, midway through last season. They gave him the contract for the, extended for into this season. Still not a great season, but you made progress off of what you started after Josh McDaniels got fired. I mean, and unfortunately for Jerod Mayo, they literally pulled a Brandon Staley on him. Key card don't work the next day.
Key card don't work the next day. I want to ask you, before we move on to the Steelers imploding, because you mentioned the whole interim head coach thing, what is your thought process on extending interim head coaches? I don't personally think that you should. Obviously, everything is circumstantial and it really depends on what your situation is, your team, how your original head coach got fired. I personally don't agree with extending interims, because it's basically, if somebody wasn't good enough to get to an assistant, when you have an interim, they're basically like not even an assistant head coach. So when you do that, it usually doesn't work out. But what's your thought process on interim head coaches and extending them? Because I personally don't believe that's a really good recipe for success.
I mean, personally, and I'm glad you asked me this, because I was kind of already pondering the thought without this whole week. And I tend to agree with you on most bullet points in terms of if an assistant isn't quite up to par in terms of taking over that head coaching position, what makes you think an interim would? But again, it's all circumstantial. Okay. It depends on, the team, your team goals, as far as like front office ownership, like what you're looking to see or what you're looking to build off of, or if you're one of those situations where you've kind of had instant gratification in terms of like, okay, right, we're gonna insert said interim head coach for, now, and then you propel, you either propel or you don't propel. What are you going to do? And I feel like at some point you also have to take a step back and look at, okay, you have the choices for interim over here on this side, and then you have the coaching staff or the staff members that are already that have been here for the longest. If there's nobody in this pile that just, stands out and says, oh, this person has done this, A, B, C, and D, to attribute to whatever success we've had prior to said head coach, interim head coach, whatever the case may be, But if you don't have somebody like if you don't have a diamond in the rough like that on this, on this side of the coin, then you almost have to be like, okay, fresh face may still be associated with the team, but not so much on the ins and outs.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, because it's really difficult to understand, like, in such a short circumstance, right? Because if you're the interim head coach, it's usually you're getting fired. Your head coach is getting fired mid-season. So either an assistant head coach or some random dude is now officially your head coach, and you don't know if you're going to keep him or not, and they're put in a bad situation. So I personally, and it's always easy for us to say, like, we would never do these things because we're not in those situations, right? Like, if I was, Al Davis, I'm like, oh, well, I would never pay Antonio Pierce. What does it matter? I don't have $15 million to throw in a head coaches, like it's super easy for me to be the GM coach and say, like, yeah, I got this thing. Don't worry about it. But to me, it's interim head coach is not somebody who I want to give a 3-4 year deal to. If there's enough spark, if there's enough, juice, or is the juice worth the squeeze? If it is for 1.5 to 2 years, I'm kind of okay with it. But the problem is that these coaches, their salaries are not part of the salary cap. So we don't really, as fans, we don't care about it. We care about what the players make, which is always stupid to me, because stop getting in other players' pockets, other people's pockets. But the coaches, we don't care if they get paid $100 million like John Gruden, right? Like, he's still getting paid by the Raiders, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think he still has, I want to say 2025 or 2026 is one of his last, like, coupled years, if I remember correctly. Like, either way, he's still getting paid from the Raiders to this, as we're speaking on this platform right now, which is in some aspects absolutely outrageous, but also in some respects it's like, okay, well, y'all had to buy him out in order to make the coaching change that you did or needed to at the time. So now you're still biting the bullet for it. And another perfect example, like, there are so many coaches out there, like, just within late or recent rather, that have gotten the big giant boot midseason. Perfect example, Matt Eberflus. Perfect example. Literally, Brandon Staley. Perfect example.
Ooh, actually, I got a good. So with Eberflus, do you think he just? Ooh, I got like 7 things to get to on the docket, but we ain't gonna worry about that right now. But Eberflus, do you think he deserved to get fired as the head coach?
Not in the middle of the season. Not in the middle of the season. Especially because him and Gerard Mayo, very similar makeups. 2 brand new quarterbacks fresh out of the draft. One was the number 1 overall pick. One was the number 3 overall pick. Very similar makeups in terms of them trying to build pieces, find pieces, make new pieces out of old pieces, that type of thing, to build some form of an offensive threat. And unfortunately for neither one of them, they were very stagnant on the offensive side of the ball. And that's unfortunate. That's not a bad thing for them per se. It's more or less, it's an attribution to the fact that you're rebuilding your team through the draft process, or what most people would think, okay, I'm going to rebuild, or I'm going to rebuild my team. If I'm an owner, let's say I'm the owner for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. And I want to, and I need to draft A, B, C, and D. So I start to do that, or I do that with picks. I still have the talent, but I don't have enough talent around such a young core, which is exactly the same. That's the same exact thing that happened to Eberflus. Only thing with Eberflus is they didn't give him the entire season to do so. Robert Kraft gave Gerard Mayo the entire season to do so. You got the 3rd overall pick. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the New England Patriots had 2 or 3 first-round picks in this past draft, with Drake May being the first one at number 3. Yep. So you would think, you have your quarterback, I need pieces to go with my quarterback. But you pick you pick an offensive lineman and a free agent corner who you essentially ended up trading to move Matthew Judon to another team. So what were you really doing? Make it make sense. I mean, and unfortunately, I have to bring up your Buffalo Bills because y'all did the same thing.
Look, you can't, Mac, you can't hurt me. You can't.
I'm not trying to.
Go ahead. Try to hurt me.
I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just saying, like, there have been so many teams as of late to do something or have a similar makeup of that, of that array. Only difference for your Buffalo Bills is Josh Allen has been in the league for 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Josh Allen, especially this season, and I know you're going to get on me about this here in a little bit because you are the proverbial Bills fan, but in terms of this season alone, before y'all acquired Amari Cooper, Josh Allen was doing a lot of the work by himself, with the exception of having the offensive tackle, Dominique Dawkins.
Because that is
James Cook.
Nope, that is inaccurate because everybody I am going to interrupt you because I'm irritated. I'm gonna do this because it's my show. So no,
bring it on, P. Scott.
Hold up. So I remember the first 2 years that Josh Allen. No, I see you right now. I see the first 2 years that Josh Allen was in the league. Everybody told me he was cheeks, right? The first 2 years, everybody told me he was cheeks. Then who'd he get? Stephon Diggs. And then he had basically an MVP season. And for 3 years having them, he was awesome. And then people told me, when they trade him away, he's not going to be very good. And they start at the end of last year, the Buffalo Bills started to not incorporate Stephon Diggs into their roster or into their offense. And I told everybody that nobody wanted to listen to this is part of the plan, right? Like Josh Allen was trash before they got Diggs. Diggs is the one who got separation for other wide receivers, which gave Josh Allen the comfortability and gave him some opportunistic plays and however you want to label it. And then they get rid of him. But they're still awesome because they had some type of time to recalibrate their offense. That's the biggest thing for me was that it's not, and I will say this right now, and I will say this until the day I die. The Bills will end up losing in the conference championship to either Kansas City or Baltimore because they don't have a true number one wide receiver. All this trickery, all this fun stuff is good. It's a good story. This is not your year. It never has been your year. I've been a Bills fan since I was 5 years old. I'm 40 years old now. It will never be our year because God doesn't want me to be happy.
All right, listen. I'm not saying I cannot stand you. I'm not saying that you're not correct because you are correct in that aspect. The only thing that I will add to such a thing in terms of Josh Allen going from the perception of being cheeks to having
I lost you for a bit. Oh no, did I lose you? Damn, I think I lost Matt. We had such a good run. So many things to get into. Well, my podcast episode's weird. Well, I'll go ahead and filibuster until she gets back. So the next talking point, besides just Mac put it, she goes, "You did lose me." Well, I'll tell you what, it's not a big deal. What I'm going to do, I'm going to filibuster for a bit until she comes back. Hopefully she does. and that's Mack Brooks, Mackenzie Brooks of the Mack the Mack Brooks show, which is going on in Des Moines, Iowa, which is awesome because I'm in Alaska, she's in Iowa, and people still want to listen to me. The two things I want to get to, and I'm hoping that she comes back relatively soon because I have no idea how this thing is going to transpire, is Brock Purdy and what should the Niners do, and we'll get to Jimmy Butler because I got some words, not really so much words, but I have some really interesting to me thought process on the Jimmy Butler situation what's going in Miami. Is when it comes to Brock Purdy, a lot of folks, we need the return of the Mac. Yeah, I know, bud, but I can't. Nigel's saying we need the return of Mac. I know this, man, but I can't control her internet, man. I'm trying to do my best and filibuster. You know how hard it is to just talk by yourself and just do things oddly when you expect somebody to come back? These things happen, but here we are. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is Vikings versus Lions in a moment. But first, what should the Niners do with Brock Purdy? If you're the Niners, don't sign Brock Purdy unless you can get him for half exactly what you think that his market value is worth. That's the whole problem when it comes to these NFL quarterbacks is, well, you got to pay the guy. You don't. And I made this conversation piece for a very, very, very long time, is that you don't necessarily have to pay these guys. We've made these mistakes with the Blake Bortles and Jimmy Garoppolo's, and you could even say now the Trevor Lawrences. Stop paying these dudes when you think that you can get another dude who's just as good. There's only about 4 or 5 guys that you should pay, right? This is what I've been telling you guys this for the last 5 years now, is if somebody's great, there's about 3 or 4 great quarterbacks, 3 or 4 great. Sorry. And Mac is back. There we go. I was doing my own
I don't
thing.
know what happened.
I had to
that was weird.
Good.
The internet just like kicked me out. Whatever. I'm back. Fact of the matter is, okay, that you guys, your team, listen, your team has had that time and buffer in between to essentially reestablish its offense, where Gerard Mayo and Antonio Pierce, to some extent, haven't had that time or didn't get that time. And, you know, with Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus, Roma Dunze over in Chicago. But then it seems like you guys go stagnant right around playoffs conference time. But I feel for whatever reason, and maybe it's just the player in me, which is very, very possible. I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this, but
you're allowed to as long as you're honest about it. And I appreciate that about you.
And, you know, and I try, but I also feel like because there isn't necessarily a number one receiver that you have, I feel like that's what's going to possibly turn the table for you guys, is like they're going to be focused on whatever's going on in the background as far as like all the trickery. Okay, how the hell are we going to stop James Cook? How the hell are we going to, double team block and pancake block AJ Epinesa, Von Miller, and Matt Milano? Like how, there's going to be so many moving parts that I feel like when you guys really lock down, okay, like we're going to start just throwing to Amari Cooper like for a couple drives and see if they pick it up on it, or flip it to the other side and just, I'm going to start giving Mac Hollins and his no shoe wearing self before the game, all these balls.
He's a no sock.
Him too. Like all of that. I'm just like, listen, and maybe not for nothing, because like we share the same name, and like if your first name is Mac in any type of sort, you're a certified BAMFer. Okay, just saying. It's fine. But all in all, I don't necessarily think. I don't think you guys are going to be in as bad of a position as you think they are. Mind you,
I'm very worried. I'm very worried.
Listen, at least your team is in the playoffs.
As a Cowboys fan, you know what it feels like to win Super Bowls. You got this. You got one of those W's.
Yeah.
A lot of those. We don't have any of those. So that's why the Playbook podcast exists, is because I get to tell you guys how everybody could lose, because I'm so accustomed to having that happen to me.
You know what? I can't even take that from you, because you're right. I mean, and not for nothing, since we're unfortunately talking about the the demise and the despise that I have for my Dallas Cowboys.
That is my next question. We got sidetracked for a bit, but that is my next thing. Is like, what are you? Because what I read, and I don't believe everything I read on the interwebs, but somebody told me, and the little interwebs told me that Jerry Jones doesn't want to relinquish his, player personnel.
In terms of he just doesn't want to give over control because he's an old crepity man and still lives in 1970.
Well, I'm a 40-year-old white man and I take offense to that.
As you should. Good. Take offense to it because I'm sick of Jerry Jones and his old ways. And part of the reason we haven't had success since I was 6 years old. Well, tomorrow would make it 6 years old. Either way.
Happy birthday tomorrow, by the way.
Thank you very much.
It's your sister's birthday today, right? You said?
Yeah, it is. Shout out to my big sis, Shaq. She's 34 years old today. And she's out here living her best life. I texted her at midnight. I did not get a text message or a phone call from this girl till 3:30 this afternoon.
So
when I was leaving,
at least you know that she's alive. I
had to text her again. I said, "Are you alive?" And she said, "Listen, I've been asleep all day." I said, "So that means you was just out here in these streets till 4 a.m." She's like, "Yup," and woke up to breakfast in bed. And she's like, "I got a hangover." I said, "Well, I'm glad one of us is going to be able to enjoy such a thing."
She went straight from like, you wanted to say you belong to the streets, and she goes, "No, the streets belong to me, madam."
Yeah, literally. I was just like, all right. I was like, listen, go off, sis. I'm not about to take your day from you because my day is tomorrow. Okay. And listen, I'm a national treasure, damn it. And tomorrow is Mack Truck Day. I'm just let y'all know right now. But for now, we're talking sports on the Playbook Podcast with P. Scott.
So if your name wasn't Mack Brooks and you had to combine it with Nicolas Cage because he's the national treasure, what would you do with that?
Ooh.
I know, right? Sorry, I put you on the spot.
It would be Cage Brooks. Just like a certified BA.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, Cage Brooks sounds like a Mortal Kombat character.
Listen, and I fight MMA, play with me because that will be my next t-shirt. Swear. Let's go.
Let's go. That would be nasty.
I love it. This is why I love chopping it up with you on the Playbook Podcast. Okay, listen. The thing. We always get off topic and still circle back. But since we're circling back to the unfortunate, that is the Dallas Cowboys. Fact of the matter is Jerry Jones the Dallas Cowboys are not going to have the success that they are known for having until Jerry Jones relinquishes complete control in terms of the team outside of the office stuff. Pretty much. I never like to wish, death on folks, but he's about as close to staring at the sky in a wooden box as like people bringing back breakdancing from the Olympics.
You let that Australian girl let her live her good life. That is not fun.
I can listen.
It's really bad. It's so bad.
It was horrible. Well, and not for nothing. And I've been getting a lot of flack from this because, 99% of Dallas Cowboys fans, one, don't know the sport of football as a whole. Two, it's always our year. No, shut the hell up. It hadn't been our year since 96. It ain't going to be our year now. Okay, let's stop and pause on the it's our year shit. Okay? Fact of the matter is, we have to have a head coach that is hip to the current times of football. Unfortunately, I don't think
the current times. You couldn't have sound more old than you did this right now. And on top of that, on top of what you just said is a huge ass. Nah, girl, you can't be doing that.
I can. I'll be 33. Listen, I have a great eyelash. Okay, I'm old. It's what it is. Okay. Fact of the matter is I don't, and I like Mike McCarthy as a head coach. Don't get me wrong. I think he's done a lot of good for the Dallas Cowboys for the past couple of years.
Are you lying about that, or are you just trying to?
No, I truly believe that. I've seen what he's been able to do, how he's been able to mold or remold Dak Prescott as far as he now knows how to read a defense for the most part. He didn't when
Yeah, but he's also like 29.
Also fair. That's fair. Either
Actually,
way,
he might be old now, isn't he?
no, I want to say he's 29 because him and Zeke are in the same class as far as like draft class.
Nigel says you and him can be friends because he hasn't said anything as far. Well, you know Nigel though.
I do. Nigel's wild. Listen. I've had interesting. I've just observed Nigel from afar. He's very intriguing.
Iowa.
That's fair. That's valid.
Nice.
Valid. That's fair. Either way, I've seen what Mike McCarthy has been able to try to accomplish with the past couple seasons. This is really the first season that he's been head coach that the Cowboys haven't had a winning season, haven't had 10 plus wins and didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, injury bugs, all the things. And then I will die on this hill. So listen up right now. What on earth was the point of bringing back Ezekiel freaking Elliott if y'all wasn't going to use him? What was the point of giving him $2.5 million and then giving him another $2.5 million in incentives and then playing him for 4 games and maybe not even that, and then you release him? What on earth are y'all thinking in Dallas? Because frankly, y'all just wasted salary cap. And not to mention, y'all paid him that ridiculous ass $90 million when you traded him to the Patriots to get rid of that salary cap, inevitably to bring him back and then re-release him. Like, what is like the circle of life?
I think I have a reason why.
What's your reason, P. Scott? I need to know because the math ain't mathing.
I'm not saying it's a good reason. I'm just trying to math for Jerry. He likes Zeke, and that's it.
I will concur with you.
That is the only thing that I have is that he's just like, oh, I like Zeke.
Like a good faith type of thing. Like, oh, you got drafted here. You did all this for us. You're first. That I could see that. I will agree with you.
He would offer Tony Romo 3/4 of his salary to get out of the booth to just be a backup at Dallas right now. He won't actually, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past him though.
I wouldn't put past anything coming out of the Dallas Cowboys front office.
I know.
Frankly.
Right, no. Well, tell you what, let me get 30 seconds to pay one more bill, and then I got to ask you a question about Brock Purdy and then probably Jimmy Butler before we wrap things up. Give me about 30 seconds to pay some bills. Now, with this being primarily a sports podcast, we understand that hydration and energy are both very important, not just for pro athletes, but for pro podcasters like your boy over here. That is why DUBBY.GG, that's right, Dubby, has linked up with Chop It Up with P. Scott to give you a 10% off your online order using promo code P. Scott. They've got swag bags and shakers, energy drinks and hydration supplements, and everything in between. My wife loves the pine berry splash flavor. I'm more of a watermelonada guy, but you really can't go wrong with either. They're rich in vitamins B6, 7, 12, vitamin C, and other vitamins and minerals to make you be the best version of yourself. Once again, visit www.dubby.gg. Use promo code PSCOT for 10% off your purchase. Y'all know the drill. Stay up, stay blessed. Let's get back into the episode. Brock Purdy, you paying him or not?
I have to pay him. I have to pay him. Listen.
Now, when I say pay him, what are you talking about paying him versus what I'm talking about paying him?
I mean, I'm not talking about paying him what Dak Prescott is getting paid for a hockey injury right now. But I'm saying to pay him more than the $850K that he's getting as Mr. Irrelevant on the last year of his rookie contract. Just look at the makeup of things that he's been able to accomplish in his first 4 seasons. and then tears his ulna, has surgery, and turns and damn near flips it the same 180 again, fresh off an injury.
So the thing, the Playbook podcast looks at it from everybody's angle. Should Brock Purdy be paid more than $1 million a year? Yes. Now, he was a Pro Bowler last year, so now his final year is going to be paid, I think, $5 million. I think is how that transaction works for his final year. But even still, even if that's not accurate, is he's getting paid $1 million, and starters are getting paid $50 million. Is he worth $50 million to me? No. Is he worth more than one? Yes. But he has an agent, and that agent is going to tell him, you see what Trevor Lawrence just got paid? Nah, man. Now, if I'm the Niners, I'm somebody who, yes, you can still hold him back one more year. But does that then start to accumulate? You didn't want to pay Ayuk right away. You didn't want to pay Samuel right away. You don't want to pay Purdy at all. Do you start to be kind of the NFC version of the Bengals? Like we don't want to give away the naming rights. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I don't think it's actually true, but is Purdy worth $60 million to me? No. Is he worth more than $1 million? Absolutely. But the problem is when you see all these guys at the quarterback position making what they're making, now San Francisco has to make an educated decision of, is he the guy that we want to pay? Because like Sam Darnold right now, Baker Mayfield, they're making in the 30s. Bro, after the season that they're having, good luck inviting him to 30 million. He's going to want more than that. And the Niners are in a rock and a hard place. But if you think that you're so much better with every other quarterback, which you've shown to do, which they're not going to be because Kittle is going to be old. He's older. McCaffrey's older. Samuel's older. If you think that he's the dude, if you think Purdy is the absolute answer, then you pay him. If you don't pay him absolute. And you have to start dealing Kittle. You have to start dealing. You have to rebuild. I said at the beginning of last year's podcast was, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, they got to break it down and restart. And I still stand firmly in that. And I'm sorry that I got off topic and I'm sorry I hijacked that thing. But what do you want to do with Purdy? I don't want to pay that man.
Listen, and it's funny you said pay that man, because Evan and I, ironically enough, started our own spinoff of both of our shows, and a segment on there was called Pay That Man. So that's why I'm giggling, because like, I want to pay that man. But I'll tell you this, I absolutely agree with you in terms of, okay, you're looking at a Dak Prescott, a Sam Darnold, a Baker Mayfield in that 30-ish mid-range. Well, and then Dak Prescott is way over there in $65 million, monstrosity range of pay. And just like you said, if they don't think that Brock Purdy is the absolute answer right now and that they could do better with a different quarterback, which, again, they have proven to show because Brock Purdy was the different quarterback. That's what I'm struggling with, is because, okay, you drafted Trey Lance at number 3 the draft before.
So much.
You gave him like an entire house worth of China and then some, for a first-round draft pick out of an SCS school. You had Jimmy G, he broke his foot. Trey Lance broke his ankle. You bring in Mr. Irrelevant, and he, seemingly enough at that point, proves why he should be paid, but definitely not $60 million. I mean, and now with, just like you said, his agent is absolutely going to go after the Lynch family ownership group. It's going to be ridiculous. Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous.
These guys are getting paid.
Well, and that's the thing, is like their basis, and they really have every right to go on this basis, is, okay, so the 49ers had a down year this year, but every single year before this one, before 2024, he has proven what he can do. He's essentially, he's had his Sam Darnold comeback year, his Baker Mayfield comeback years, the years prior to 2024 season. And that's what they're going to go off of. And then random fun fact, I actually coached one of his youth camps here in Des Moines this summer.
Brock Purdy?
It was great. Yes. That kid is massive. Listen, I'm 5'10", and well, at that time I was probably pushing 300. He's absolutely every bit of 6'1", 6'2", and this man's quads are as big as all the hair on my head. He's big as hell. It's amazing. Just for the record. Well, and the other thing in terms of just me bringing that up is they're going to be like I feel like the Lynch family group ownership group rather would try to not lowball him, but definitely undercut him some because, he's getting all this exposure as far as doing youth camps and, the family business, the farm, all that things. But like those things don't attribute to what I do on a weekend basis wearing the 49ers crescent emblem and and representing the NFL as a player.
Well, I think that the Lynch, and so I try to look at everything from, again, everybody's perspective. So I know Brock Purdy wants to get paid. Do I think he does? No. Especially not with San Francisco. They are paying too many people too much money. And what they've been doing is they are doing what I've been saying that most NFL teams do. And they're basically putting it into the perspective of what Major League Baseball teams do. They're kicking the can down the road, right? I will pay for this later. And Brock Purdy is no exception. It's just, do you want to pay him now or later? Now, this has always been my thing with Brock Purdy is if you think he's the dude, the moment that he's eligible to be extended, which is not now, I think it's in like a week to 10 days from now. If you think that he's the dude, you pay him immediately because you have zero idea what the market's going to change to. If you don't think he's the dude, don't pay him at all. Keep him straight where he is, and either you trade him, you franchise him, whatever, but do not extend him. If you're not going to do it the moment that it's open, then don't do it at all.
So here's another theory, because I absolutely agree with you in that regard. I think the other thing that we need to try to take into consideration with just this entirety of, these now quarterbacks or players that are coming to the end of their, the rookie contracts, that type of thing. And especially with a Brock Purdy, who was the very last pick of his, Mr. Irrelevant, 266, 265, whatever the number is. They're going, what I could see San Francisco doing is very similar to what they did with Dak the same season that they gave Zeke that $90 million contract. Is they're going to extend him just enough to keep him happy and to keep him progressing, and then it's gonna end up being like 2-year deal with incentives. Like they're gonna give him I would say if I had to give a roundabout ballpark answer, I would probably say they would look at somewhere within 18.5 to 22, 25, somewhere in there. Just enough to keep him okay, I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid. I'm no longer on that rookie deal, but I'm not getting
That's less than franchise money though. Like if they franchise,
really,
I think so.
I would be interested to see what that figure is. But I mean, if that's the case, then if that ballpark number that I just said is a little bit less than the franchise tag, or even just floating with it, we might as well just franchise tag him and give him incentives.
I think the problem you run into though is because he's been playing up again. So since he was a Pro Bowler last year, he gets a $5 million, whatever the thing is. I forget exactly what it is, but
he gets that incentive from being a Pro Bowler.
From being a Pro Bowler, yeah, exactly. So, but the thing you run into is, I don't know, man. What is Shanahan? And I want to put this into perspective. Everybody's life. Should Purdy get paid? Yes. Does he deserve to get paid Joe Burrow money? No. Not at all. I need to be very clear about that. But I know how the quarterback market works and how it should be. Do I agree with it? No, but I understand how it works. He, as a starting quarterback, is not going to take anything less than 45, I would imagine, $1 million a year. I think.
Yeah, I would say 40 to 42 is pushing it, but he's gunning for that 45, 50 in that ballpark. Is it going to happen? Nah. But those would be the ballpark numbers, again, depending on what the market looks like, when that time comes in the next 7-ish, 8 days.
Right, exactly. And I feel like, and we'll get on to MVP talk in a moment. I think like what I think about when it comes to paying these quarterbacks is, if you are willing to pay them, I would say, because I work in the margins, right? I'm a finance manager at a car dealership. I work in the margin. If you are somebody who is within 10% of what the market dictates, are you willing to pay that? If the answer is yes, then you pay that guy. If you're not, then you don't. So Brock Purdy, are you willing to pay him between 50? Is 50 your threshold? 50 and 45? If you say 45 is my floor, then don't pay him. If you think it's somewhere between 45 and 55, then you pay him regardless. It just really depends on how much do you really love and really care about this quarterback at that point in time. Because if you're willing to pay them X amount and it's starting quarterback money, I don't agree with the process on it. I'm just saying, like, this is how we have gone to the economics of quarterbacks. So if you agree with it, then pay him. And if you don't, then I'd say let that mother walk.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you more and more the more we talk about it, because the kid has talent up the wazoo, clearly. Like, we've seen it for our own eyes. Unfortunately, the 49ers have had just about as great a year as the Dallas Cowboys, with maybe one or two more wins. Fact of the matter is what is the Lynch ownership group? What do they actually think his ceiling is? Like, do they
problem too, that like if you're comparing Dallas to San Francisco, Dallas has 2 or 3 more wins and way less talent.
Valid
from my perspective, but it's a very short leash though. Like, this is why I said if the Niners don't win a Super Bowl this year, they're cooked. Like, they got to restart. It's a 5-year process from here on out. For me personally.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. I think at this point, just like you said, you're looking at a George Kittle who's a little older now. You're looking even at a Nick Bosa, who seemingly enough seems to be, and it's really unfortunate, seems to be injury prone. You have a Diamador Lenore, same thing. Fred Warner, same thing. Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, yeah. I mean, like all the stars that we literally know of, and that we're sitting here always talking about on a day in and day out basis, as far as like just stats and teams and greatness and not greatness and all the things. But where do you start that? Like, where do you start the threshold of the rebuild? Do you start it? Do you cut it? Do you cut it underneath right at the quarterback and redraft a new quarterback? Or are you franchise tagging him to see if he can prove you anything else?
So,
I mean, it almost feels like it doesn't make any sense to redraft another quarterback.
Well, this is before we move on to the next talking point, which is going to be Jimmy Butler, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Is like, I'm with you. Where do you draw the line, right? Like, we've seen this. If you have the great quarterback, right? We've seen Burrow get paid. We've seen Josh Allen and Mahomes. They're great. And the people around them necessarily aren't, but we see them elevate them. Brock Purdy hasn't done that. So this comes down to the boiling point of, if you don't think that he can get the best out of your guys, and Kittle, again, like, and this has always been my point, and you just alluded to, is you might as well just do a fire sale. If you think that Purdy is your guy, which I don't believe is accurate, but if you believe that he is, fire sale Kittle, fire sale Ayuk, Samuel, McCaffrey, everybody who wants to get we're one piece away, you're further away than you think that you are. And I'm okay if you want to do that. Will they do it? I don't believe so. But I believe if you think that, but again, do you think that Purdy is the dude? San Francisco has to make that decision, not me.
Agreed. I mean, it's agreed. I mean, like, but and then poses the question, and I feel like this is the same question for a lot of the teams in this very similar position is like, oh, do we need to pay somebody? Or we're going to pay somebody, that type of thing. Where do you start your threshold, or where do you cut it underneath the rug to do that rebuild? Like, who do you start with? Like, unfortunately for San Francisco, I almost, and I can't even fathom the fact that I'm forming my mouth to say this because I love me some GK, but I feel like if you're going to start somewhere, you may have to start there. He's one of the longest running people on the team. He's seen so much success. But what piece do you start at? Because I feel like if you start with Brock Purdy, that's just going to prove people's point. Like, oh, he was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. But then you can't sit there and say that he still, has that impression of being Mr. Irrelevant because of the fact that he's brought you so much success up until this down season. And it was really a down season across the board, not even just starting with the offense. The defense was bad. The special teams was not great. The constant posing questions for Kyle Shanahan, like, can he run a team like his family has been known to? And this year, the answer is no. Maybe you start there. Maybe you start with Kyle Shanahan. Hot take. Maybe the San Francisco should start with Kyle Shanahan, even though the coaching salary isn't in the salary cap anymore.
Well, and I think you make a very great point on that. And I mentioned this about a year and a half ago of when do we start to get to the point of is Kyle Shanahan an overrated head coach? We do it with every, and this is not saying that Kyle Shanahan is a bad head coach, but we do with every single head coach who has not won a Super Bowl, who has been to multiple, or at least one. We did it with Andy Reid before he got to Kansas City, and he went to 5 NFC championships and look, oh, he can't win it. We're so stupid as fans, but we think we're so smart. We need to stop with all of it. It's so asinine. But I understand what you're saying, though, is like from the perspective of we see what are the results based on what you've given us. Are we getting to a point where maybe Kyle Shanahan is an overhead coach and maybe deserves to get fired? And honestly, my Bills, Sean McDermott's in the exact same place, but they've been wanting to fire him for 2.5 years, but every time they go on a 3-game winning streak, they want to keep him because they're desperate.
You know what? And maybe the 49ers are in a spot of desperation. But again, being that one piece away in just players, literally in like, and that's what that and as fans, that's the other thing that drives me absolutely crazy. Thank you. Because everybody's always like, oh, we're one piece away. We're one piece away. Okay, where do you determine you're one piece at?
Exactly.
Where? It literally can't just be the players.
Because it used to be McCaffrey, right? McCaffrey was the one piece away.
Mm-hmm. Then it was Purdy.
And then it was, and it's not even just San Francisco. It's everybody. We're one piece away. The Jets were one piece away. You were one Achilles tear away. Got you.
One ayahuasca treatment away.
Right. we were one witness for treatment away. One darkness for treatment away from getting the Super Bowl, man. Also, it's all part of the plan. If you know, you know. Yo, I hate that dude. I'm just gonna leave that at that. Maybe you know who I'm talking about, maybe you don't, but
I'm gonna let you have that one. Because I'm not gonna speak on it. But listen. Let's roll into this Jimmy Butler. Okay.
Oh yeah, I want to see what you feel about this because a lot of people have a lot of mixed emotions. Jimmy Butler, here we go. What you think about it, girl?
I think Jimmy Butler has been in similar positions for a long time in terms of before he got to the Heat. I feel like it's worse now because he's under the ownership of Pat Riley.
You think Pat Riley doing this to him?
I'm going to say he has a part of it. I don't think it's completely him. I think it's more or less the fact that Jimmy Butler outside of Tyler Hero is carrying the team and has for a while. You also have to take into the consideration the factor of what that does to your mental health as an athlete.
He's also 36.
That's where the mental health comes in. And not for nothing. And I feel like LeBron kind of went through this similarity when he essentially left Cleveland, even though he was still young when he left Cleveland.
Yeah.
Where do I draw the line in my threshold in terms of reestablishing who I am? And I think that's where Jimmy Butler is at. But Jimmy Butler is on, and I hate to even say this because Jimmy Buckets, like when playoffs comes, it's like everybody knows what kind of assassin he turns into. But I don't think he has that mindset right now. And I think, like I said, I think part of it is due to the mental health of him and trying to reestablish who he is and what he really wants to accomplish, which is getting a championship. But at what expense?
The thing for me is when it comes to Jimmy Butler specifically, because I've always been a very big Jimmy Butler fan and like a proponent of like who he is as a person. What I don't agree with is people changing the narrative based on where he is, right? Because it's, oh, he's a cancer in the locker room. And then it goes to, oh, well, everybody around him's a sissy. Okay, so which one is it? And then he gets traded again. And then he's like, oh, he's a cancer again because he wants to get traded. And then it's, oh, well, he's that dog. No, maybe he's a jerk. For me, I just want people to actually, what is the lane? Because we've been doing this back and forth for the last 6 or 7 years. I think that Jimmy Butler is a very good basketball player. I really do. The other thing is playoff Jimmy is the name playoff P. Really? Because we called you pandemic P when you coined yourself that way, right? Like we want to put these names, like you can't give yourself a nickname. That's why I don't have one. If y'all gave it to me, like that kind of thing. But when it comes to Jimmy Butler, it's like one, he's 36. Playoff Jimmy is a thing, but also it can't be a thing when he's 36. Like to me, he has to just acknowledge, bro, you might have it every other day. You might be able to muster up the 25, 7, and 7, but you're not doing it every week. You're not doing it every day. And he thinks that he can once it gets to the playoff. And it seems like now, and I'm not close enough to the Miami Heat to be able to say that I know that this is exactly what he thinks, but I know enough about how he thinks about himself that he's kind of pushing the narrative of like, I don't have to play in the regular season. I'm going to get my checks and I'm going to be playoff Jimmy when you need me to be. This is not the bubble, dude. You haven't been to the finals since then, and you're not going to get there after the fact. I don't believe, and I love Jimmy. I just feel like he's just being too out of pocket with all this.
Okay, let's spin it in a different direction because I see where you're going, and I tend to align with that in some respects. But I'm going to take this over to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yes,
because if we're gonna I'm speaking we as a generalized sporting fan base, if we are going to hold Jimmy Butler to that standard,
I love that.
I did. if we're going to hold Jimmy Butler to that standard, then we absolutely have to start doing it for LeBron James. And
No,
again, yes, we do, because he's older than Jimmy Butler. Let's keep that in mind. Number two, he also has a child playing in the league. Number three, he also has another son who just committed to the University of Arizona, and then turns around and states, oh, I could probably play another 5 years to play with Bryce, but we're not going to keep him to the same standard that we're keeping Jimmy Butler because of the fact that he wants traded. No, sis, can't do that. Not going to do that. Won't do that. Fact of the matter is,
let me ask you this. Can you name 10 players? And I like doing top 10s. I want to preface it with that. But can you name 10 players? Who are your top 10 NBA players of all time? Is LeBron James in there?
He's number 7, ironically enough.
Okay. Where is Jimmy Butler?
10.
Nowhere. 10?
10. Yeah.
You lied to me.
I swear. I promise you. No. Listen.
There's no.
And I'll tell you this. My top 10 has recently changed because of the documentary Starting 5.
There is no way.
I promise you.
Your number 10 overall player.
I promise you.
Give me your 1 through 9 then, because now, okay, we didn't. Okay, I didn't start this show this way. We're gonna end it this way.
We're gonna end with violence.
Where? No. This is my show, and I call the shots. You name me. No, I didn't want to be this confrontational, Mac. I really didn't. Who are your 9? 1 through 9. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. Who you have Jimmy Butler as your 10th best basketball player ever. Who are your top 9?
Because one, you're not gonna tell me who I can and can't like. 2, if I like Jimmy damn Butler, that's who I bleeping like. Number 1. Okay.
I was so close. Sorry, I was.
I would listen. Okay. No particular order. 1 through 9. Okay.
Wait, are you
Oscar?
Your favorite are 2 completely different things from your favorite and who you think are the best. Because I have my own favorites. I have Cedric Ceballos in my top 10 favorites. I don't think he's the top 10 best. You can't be doing that.
I'm not. I'm literally giving you my top 10 in terms of who I think are the best players or were the best players.
So not favorite, but who you think are the top 10.
My favorite list, my favorite list would shock you, frankly. You'd be like, what are you on? Okay. But as an athlete, I constantly think about these things. Okay. Roy, Mack Truck chose violence. Yep, sure did. Woke up that way. When I wake up tomorrow and turn 33, I'll still be the same violent individual you see on here, just a year older and with one gray eyelash in my left eye. Okay. Fact of the matter is, I got Oscar Robertson, Magic Johnson, okay, David Lee, Steph Curry.
David Lee? Okay.
Yes. Because he was one of my favorite players growing up. First of all, don't question my list, P. Scott, okay? Don't care if this is your show or not, sis. Okay?
I just want to make sure. I'm going to stop counting because I got to 4 and you said David Lee, so I'm going to stop counting because at this point, it is your favorite and not who you think is the top 10.
It's literally, well, first of all, you can't tell me who I think my favorite, well, not even favorite, because now you got me saying favorite, and we're not even talking about favorite. You're not going to sit here and tell me who I think the best players are and were. You're not going to do that because you're not the Mack Truck. You P. Scott for a reason. I'm Mack Truck. You P. Scott. Keep it that way. Unless you start growing a full head of hair like I got, don't tell me who I can put on my list. Okay? Kobe Bryant is also on that list. Michael Jordan is also on that list. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Reggie Miller.
I could grow my own hair if I want to. I just don't want to. Being mean now.
Listen, I'll send you for some just for men, okay? And we'll get it popping. You'll look like Bob Marley by the end of the show.
I did this on purpose. You rude, David.
Yeah, you know what? Listen,
David mother Lee. David mother Lee.
You know what? Go cook a sandwich, okay? Don't be out here trying to diss my list. I didn't say he was the greatest. He is on that list. I like how he played the post position and really was built like a 4.
And I appreciate it, but I thought we were doing top 10s as far as people, not just like your if it's your favorite, if If it's your top 10 favorite, do your top 10 favorite, and I will not interrupt you anymore.
It is not. Listen, I'm not doing favorites because my favorites are a little bit all over the place. Okay. I'm literally going off of how I think they influenced the game.
Oh, well, that
literally.
wasn't. Okay. That wasn't the. All right. So.
Influence the game. Listen, I have people on my list that are either unfortunately passed on, don't play anymore, or literally electrified the game that much to where people are still emulating their game to this day. Shaquille O'Neal is also on that one. Really? Now you're being, you know what? Listen.
Dude, you're going to leave Roy. Roy says, can't believe you cut
Listen, anyway, the fact of the matter is I literally just listed 11 people and you told me I couldn't. So.
Well, okay. So no, you didn't list 11. Go ahead again. You said Oscar Robertson, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, David Lee. That's 4.
I also said Michael Jordan.
Ugh,
I also said Magic Johnson. Bye. I can't take you seriously. See, listen. This is why I'm choosing violence, because of you. This is why I could. This is how we're starting off 2025. It's fine. Is it fine? Yeah. Everything's fine. It's fine. All right. I left off at Magic Johnson. Okay, Kareem, Shaq, Chuck, LeBron, Jimmy Buckets. Okay, Draymond Green, because he's
I can't believe that Jimmy Buckets. But again, if it's your top 10, it's your top 10.
It literally is. I told you.
Can I give you my top 10?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chuck, LeBron, Dylon.
Oh, and Dikembe Mutombo.
Frustrated, so
I am. And I also forgot Dikembe Mutombo. And really, my top 10 turns into a top 15, because then I'm sitting here thinking, like, damn, who else did I have on my like all-time top 25? Bill Walton, Bill Russell. Like, it goes back and forth.
Honestly, okay, and that's fair. And actually, Anthony McBride is back in the building, and you know what? I appreciate him being in here, because we were somebody who were like, adversaries is kind of the incorrect word, but obviously I'm a Bills fan, and I obviously take. I'd like to be a little bit more on the negative side, because I want to tell people how the Bills can lose as opposed to how good Josh Allen is. And he chimed in, and obviously his son can hoop. I'm not sure if you and Anthony are friends on Facebook. Anthony McBride's son can hoop, and I hope that
I don't think I'm friends. In fact, I don't think I'm friends with Roy, Nigel, or Anthony, which really disappoints me.
Well, you should be friends with all of them. And
Anthony, he hates Josh Allen.
Are you talking about me or your son? Either way, they're both correct. Anyway, but Anthony says his favorite. He said his favorite in no order: Iverson, Penny, Roy. I'm assuming that's Roy. It can't be Roy Hibbert. Brandon Roy. I'm assuming. Kobe, Hakeem, White Chocolate. That's obviously Jason Williams. MJ, Shaq, and T-Mac. Anthony says just you. All right. Well, okay. Then I I hate Josh Allen. I don't care. You're mistwisting my words, Mr. McBride. You and everybody else who. Anyway, it's my show. I don't really. So is there anything that you wanted to get to before we go ahead and hang it up for the day? I know that we had some things as far as besides just sports kind of going on. Is there anything that you wanted to re-promote for you being in the Iowa area, and anything else you want to?
Yeah, I mean, and if you guys missed the top of the show, just a little bit of background in terms of like my show and everything. So the way you can find my show right now is under the Mack Truck Podcast, but here very soon we will be doing essentially our first official rebrand from the Mack Truck podcast to the Mack Truck Show. I am now an employee for Cumulus Media Group here in the Des Moines, Iowa sector as the promotions assistant, which means my show and my content will also be promoted and placed on the Cumulus Radio Network podcast group, which is the same network that houses Maggie and Perloff, houses Writer Than You with Bill Ryder, also houses the Jim Rome Show and Rich Eisen. So that will kick off in literally 8 days. I know. I'm sorry. But all those changes will start to kick off on January 13th. Currently, you can find all my past episodes, including this one here very soon, pretty much anywhere you find your content. YouTube, Spotify, Podbean are some of the main ones. You can also join the Mack Truck Podcast Facebook group right now as a whole. We also have merchandise. So if you want a hoodie or a sticker or a t-shirt, hit me up, or you can hit up Evan Thunder Bradfield, because he is my merchandising with In My Bag Apparel and Customs.
Oh, before we do that, hold up. To you by In My Bag Apparel and Customs. In My Bag is a brand that collaborates with talented artists from across the country to bring some unique and exclusive concepts to life at a reasonable price. For $15 off your first purchase, visit whatnot.com/invite/inmy_bag2023. That's whatnot.com/invite/inmy_bag2023 for $15 off your first purchase. And make sure to check them out on Instagram as well at inmy_bag2023. That's who she was talking about. So go get stuff.
Literally, just ask me, and we'll get you hooked up. And before we leave, the show here, the one thing I really just wanted to touch on, and it's you can put this into the realm of sports, but really, it's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially as of late with holiday seasons and just things in life just happening. Make sure you are doing what you can to take care of yourself and your mental health. People don't really understand how effective one way or the other mental health can be. And I can personally say that's part of the reason why I took a hiatus like I did. This is my very first show in 2025 back off of my hiatus after all the good things, all the bad things. Making sure you are taking care of yourself mentally is such a crucial thing. There are so many different outlets, so many different ways. And if you're somebody that's just not comfortable with, talking about your feelings or, going to a therapist, whatever it is, message me. I don't sleep. I'm always willing to talk, always willing to listen. But in order for the world to work, everybody has to be able to have a support system. And I fully believe that. And in order to thrive, and especially men, guys, don't be afraid to talk about how you feel, whether happy, sad, upset, in between. Just because you are of a Y chromosome or however you want to identify doesn't mean you're not human. Doesn't mean you don't have feelings. Doesn't mean you don't feel one way or the other. If something's bothering you, talk about it. If something is making you happy, talk about it. But don't be afraid to come out of your shell, because so many times in society these days, especially again, men seem to unfortunately not be privy to having those outlets or not knowing that they have those outlets. Don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to reach out. It is completely okay. It's a human nature to feel how you feel. It's also a human nature to talk about how you feel. And just speaking from personal experience, this is going to get a little dark, so I'm going to just fair warn you guys. I've always been an advocate of mental health, but after losing a sibling in the way that I did at the age of 17, and the way that person in my life went about it, I will always and forever advocate for men, especially, to make sure that their mental health is good or being talked about one way or the other.
No, I think that was the whole thing with this was we were supposed to put it all into one episode, and there was zero chance that it was going to work. And I appreciate that you wanted to put that in, because you and I come from the same cloth as far as not just men, but in general. You have to have a safe space where you feel like you can actually talk to somebody, whether it be in therapy that you're paying for, or we get to these points where sometimes the people that we know the best, we confide in, we don't trust them because, there's all that chitty chit chat. Or the people that you don't know at all, you trust the most, which is weird because I've actually fallen into that same realm. You're one of those people. And the thing is, find a space that you are comfortable presenting and really letting out what you really need to, because it is therapeutic. Sounds like it's kind of cheesy because we're talking about therapy, but even if it's not even a therapy session, it's like find somebody that you know and that you trust. The conversation is needed to be had. And we kind of got off topic and we had this thing go on for way longer than we needed to because we wanted to get into this as like an actual conversation piece, which we didn't do today, which is a lot my fault because of I stuff going on upstairs and getting sidetracked. But I would really like to have a more in-depth conversation with you about those types of things. But Mac is 100% right. You need to find somebody that you can be okay with talking to. Your life and your mind matters.
Absolutely. Listen, everybody's life and mind matters. And I'm even going to just put this out on Front Street. The way you find an outlet doesn't even necessarily have to be verbal. You can find
Right.
physical ways. If you're like me, I have sensory issues, and sometimes sitting down for too long drives me nuts. Like if I've got something on my mind, I either have to go to the gym or I have to, I have to do something physical to be able to circulate that energy and get my thoughts into order. So if you're a lot like me and you have to have those types of physical outlets or something to do or constantly moving, so you're not just constantly dwelling on it and just, constantly putting yourself and burying yourself deeper and deeper and deeper, then do it. But find a way that isn't harmful to yourself. And if you're an adult in that same an adult in that same mind space, and and you may or may not indulge in adult activities, whether that be herbal essence or liquid essence, make sure you're doing it
That was
in
a very
moderation.
that was a very delicate way of putting that. I appreciate that. That was nice.
I do my best to be somewhat graceful when it comes to some of these things.
For
I've
sure.
never been graceful a day in my life. However, when it comes to these types of things and this realm and space that we're occupying as show creators, content creators, however you guys want to see us, we are also human and we go through very similar, if not probably some of the exact same emotions that everybody else does. Just because one person sees you in a light doesn't mean you have to see yourself in that same light. While you can, and it's good depending on what light, what type of light it is, that type of thing. It's okay. Just know that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to take time for yourself.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me is when I took a step back from. I know that you and I both did the exact same thing. We took a step back from our shows and we need to kind of figure out our own things because we both work and then we're trying to do this on the side and we try to be engaging with people to, for one reason or another, appease other folks. And I think that at some point in time you do have to realize this isn't for, it's not for everybody. Like you're trying to be as conscious as you can for other people, but also at the same time trying to juggle too many things drives you absolutely crazy. And as somebody, for me, I sleep maybe an hour and a half a day, maybe. Like my mind just doesn't stop. I'm not able to shut it down. And so what I'm going through is different than other people. Like so my boy Roy just chimed in. He goes, when he lost my mom, it cut me deep. And like him and I are friends on Facebook. I see it. He's from the Buffalo area. And I see how much like not every grown man has the kind of love that he has for his mother the way that this guy does. And I know that it just eats him up inside. And I'm somebody who I still have my mother, thankfully, and she lives like 6 miles away. And the moment, look, we are not eternal. And the moment that I know that she goes, I'm going to be a train wreck as well. So when I see what he's going through, I'm not going through it yet, man. But Roy, I feel you, man. I'm not there yet, but I will be.
And I'm gonna flip this in 180 the other direction, because I do know what it's like to lose a parent. I do thankfully still have my mother. Unfortunately, I did lose my father in 2020 during the pandemic, and due to just health issues that he was already having prior to the pandemic. So my father and I, like, growing up, I was the essentially you could call me the problem child. I was the one who did everything, played all the sports, had the mouthy attitude, teenage girl, same, all the things. My relationship with my dad through my teenage years in college was pretty bad. Not great. He was a substance abuser, all the things. That's part of the reason why I used to be so aggressive and all things. Fact of the matter is growing up and realizing that being able to forgive somebody for their mistakes to make sure that you're okay is absolutely needed and necessary. And once I did that, I was able to really hone in on who I wanted to become as a person, and who I wanted to become and wanted to be seen in a light in terms of being a young lady and being in this space and all the things. And when my dad died, it honestly, and still to this day, just talking about it, crushed the absolute crap out of me. Like, my 33rd birthday is tomorrow, and this will be the 5th birthday that he has not been here. And this is going to be morbid, and I'm going to apologize right now, but his ashes are in my bedroom.
You have nothing to apologize for.
His ashes are in my bedroom. And it's a constant reminder of what is not eternal, but what is eternal in here, and what's eternal in here. It's what keeps me going, or what's helped to keep me going. Like I said at the top of the show, I don't have this if I don't have him. I don't have this. I don't occupy this space. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the wherewithal to do 99% of the things revolving in terms of sports and content. And it's always hard going day by day, knowing that we're not eternal, or subconsciously knowing that something just random can happen at the drop of a dime, and you're not going to know what to do. But making sure that you're taking time for yourself to be able to process whatever is going on is highly important.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better. Like I said, I luckily have not experienced direct family members, mother, father, sisters passing yet, but I have had my my father-in-law passed away a couple of years ago, and yeah, I know what it means. I don't think it's accurate, because it's not. I can never say that what his loss was to me meant the exact same way that it meant to my wife and her and his wife. That's not accurate. It's just not. But being somebody who is not from, um, for lack of a better term, uh, the circumstances that they are, and allowing me into their life, that doesn't happen very often from somebody who looks like me. Um, so I very much am grateful for the fact that he's, again, it's we're kind of getting off topic again. I'm very bad at this when it comes to when we don't have like an actual topic, and we're just kind of going back and forth. But I do understand what you mean. Without it, I can empathize with you, I guess is what I should say. I have no idea what you've gone through, but I can 100% understand what it would feel like. And I really appreciate you opening up and sharing your story with me tonight.
And I appreciate just the fact that, again, like I said at the top of the show, and like I said when we were, preparing for everything, is I'm more or less, especially with everything that has happened to me within the past 50, 60 days now. I'm just grateful to still be breathing on this earth after some of the things that I've gone through physically and mentally. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I wasn't at my lowest of lows. Because I'm
Sure.
not going to lie. Two, lying about it. Yeah. Lying about it doesn't make the healing process any easier. Confronting it one-on-one and being like, damn, this just happened. Damn, I just screwed up, messed up, whatever it is. I can't go back and change the past, but I sure as hell can go and make sure to align the future in a way to where we can avoid those things. And that was really my main purpose for wanting to have this part of the conversation and this part of the show. Obviously, sports and all the things, but life is more than sports. And when you're able to separate the two, beautiful things happen. Beautiful people come into your life. Beautiful situations happen. Right now, for me, I'm working on the latter half in terms of beautiful people, beautiful things, beautiful situations, and making sure that I'm keeping myself to a standard, but still realizing like, yeah, all these people think that I'm, Wonder Woman and I'm invincible and all the things. Nah, I'm just a chick out here trying to, talk about sports and be in a great space and enjoy my life. But I can't do that with things holding me back and me constantly wanting to just push how I feel away. No, you don't get nowhere in life doing that. Confront that thing head on like a Mack truck, run through it, process it, and turn life into, your proverbial punching bag.
I couldn't say it any better myself. I will say this, like it's always, I'm glad because this is the first time we've had each other on each other's show since like you decided to come back into the space. And it really has been a great moment of like just having you back into this space, like seeing you being happy with getting back to this environment, but also at the same time getting back to being happy of you just being you. And it really does mean the world to me that you are back doing this. It's not just return of the Mac, it's return of you being back.
And the more that I sit here and just really ponder on where I came from prior to this hiatus and where I am right now, completely different person in terms of how I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, my next move, and it's like some of the great philosophers say, move like a professional. Don't tell everybody your plans. Move in silence. The ones who are there for you are going to know.
That was Lil Wayne, right? Real G's move in silence like lasagna.
Bingo. Bingo. Facts. It's a fact. Either way, I didn't want to, not that I don't want to take up time talking about this, but it is a Sunday night. There is football on. We want to watch football, because we're sports fans and all the things, but we will be back with a more lifestyle-based episode at some point. So be prepared.
I got Tuesday off.
Not sure what kind of shape I'm going to be in on Tuesday. I ain't going to lie to you. Not going to lie to you.
That's all right. I appreciate
you. We could try it. We could try it. I still know what type of shape I'm going to be in. Because as soon as we get off of here, birthday shenanigans commence. And really, they commenced at like 3:30 this afternoon.
Hey, you know what? I can appreciate your enthusiasm and your honesty. And maybe Friday, maybe another Sunday morning before the early games.
I think we could circle back to that.
These are my only days, really. So,
okay. Well, I know we always stay in connection, so we're going to circle back. But I appreciate you having me on per normal and letting me, make my comeback to 2025 in such a beautiful, as I like to say, a Mack truck way, if you will.
Like as you say, you better get the. Oh, I have my beep up. You better get the at the way, man.
Listen, hop on or hop off. That's all I got to say.
I love how you are hop in or hop off, like hop on or hop off, and I'm like, stay up or stay blessed.
Listen, and not for nothing, I have absolutely adopted that for the record.
I've seen that, and I really appreciate that you kind of hijacked it. But you know what? As long as it helps somebody, I'm okay with it.
Listen, I really kind of put two phrases in 4 or 5 different words. One of my very good other podcast friends named shout out Brandon Stewart of the Roundtable Podcast. He actually came up with a very similar quote for me. He knows you exist, I promise.
Oh shit. All right, go ahead.
So, and I told him, because I turned him on to your show and everything, and he heard your quote, like he heard your sign off, and I said, I need something like that. So he came up for me, he came with stay tuned and stay sporty. So I put the two together.
That's nice.
Yeah, so on other platforms, I usually normally use it on like my Snapchat. I'll send one, like do my nightly snap, and at the very end I always say stay up, stay blessed, stay tuned, and stay sporty. We'll see you on the next snap. Quite literally. It's like my new mantra, and I gotta lie, love it.
By the way, that's copywritten. You can't just have that.
It's not having it if I'm borrowing it. I'm saying
I will fight you in the Des Moines streets.
Come on, listen. I mean, I might let you win a round. It's a little snowy here and not negative 400 like it is over there. It is -2 though.
I love how you said it's a little snowy. I'm like, it's not snowing at all. It's wild. Like the temperature here has been crazy. It's been either 30 degrees or it's been like -7 with 400-mile-per-hour winds. It's been stupid. I hate Alaska. I absolutely.
Listen. I think of that about Des Moines every day I get off. Oh, to be in your position, I would lock myself in a heater. Ugh.
Tell you what, let's swap spots. You can Airbnb at my house. I'll Airbnb at yours, and we'll see which one you hate more. But it has to be in January. It can't be in June. Don't count. We're not doing that.
No, listen, I don't wish summertime in the Midwest on anybody, frankly. But we can make it happen. Oh, listen, P. Scott, there's football on. We got to get up off of this crazy thing.
We got to get it out of here. So anyway, this has been the Playbook Podcast. That has been the Matt Truck, Mackenzie Brooks, the Matt Truck Show. I'm so glad that you were able to hang out. I don't even know if I can say chop it up anymore, but thank you so much for being a part of the show. Renee DaCosta, finally, we just hanging it up. I don't even know who Renee DaCosta is.
Listen, Renee is one of my longtime friends, and she was actually on here at the very top of the show too. So she's been watching off and on.
All right. Well, I'm glad that she was, and I'm sorry that I missed it. But Renee, you
follow your boy.
We'll figure something out. But I appreciate you stepping in. Y'all know the drill. Stay up, stay blessed, stay up, and stay sporty. Catch you guys in the next one.